Hello. So, see if I can't record some videos real quick. This match was very, very good. I'm playing against Jeskai Control, and they're very interesting. They're using the hieroglyphic illumination, which ended up being a very good card. Um, I'm playing Skred. Looks like a really good hand. So, um, yeah, play my relic. It's really the only turn one play I had there. So, um, I wasn't sure what my opponent was on quite yet, but I figure I'll go ahead and eat their graveyard. I saw that and this, and I figured, okay, it's some sort of um, what's it called? Uh, Control deck. And again, just trying to eat their graveyard. And right here, I'm trying to set up for a turn three moon. Unfortunately, the opponent is able to fetch around moon. They could have, no, they couldn't counter it. So the moon ends up costing me the game, I think. But so the opponent, I know the opponent is probably playing Logic Knots, but I'm just trying to. My game plan here is just to empty my hand of every threat that I draw. Unfortunately, that does not work out for me. And because I played Moon, I can't use scrying sheets to pull cards off the top. So my opponent is going to be able to get card advantage here while I cannot, especially with this guy. So, and I pop the relic to try to draw so I can finish off um, what's his name? Teferi. And I do not. So Teferi's going to end up winning the game for my opponent, just overwhelming me in card advantage. And now I have to play a threat to take care of Teferi, but the opponent has plenty of counters or answers. So now the entire game is going to rely on trying to combat Teferi, which I cannot do. Yeah. And there's just so much card advantage here on my opponent's side. Now I have to bolt Teferi, and yeah, that's going to cost me the game, drawing extra moons and just lands. So, game two, I end up actually just winning thanks to Eternal Scourge. And this is where I realized that there's a different way to combat this deck. So I keep this, I had to mull, I keep this. Yeah, go for the Scourge. And really, in hindsight, I should have waited to untap and play this, but so now I'm going to be able to start using sheets to dig through my deck. Now, when I looked at the top card, it was a Blood Moon. And I realized, Blood Moon's not going to help me a whole heck of a lot. So I could have popped the Mind Stone to draw the moon before the shuffle, but I decided I did not want to. I did not care about Blood Moon. And my opponent, they didn't know the cards in my hand. They knew about a couple of mountains, kind of, but I was playing them as I drew them. So the opponent did not know the other cards, so they were a little afraid to play tap out for Teferi here. I mean, it wasn't necessarily tap out, but they wouldn't have been able to counter anything. And I know that after playing game one, I know that the threats that my opponent has, I didn't see Celestial Colonnade, so I'm thinking even if they have Colonnade, I can just kill it. But mostly it's just Teferi and Snapcaster and burn. So I figure if I can just kill the Teferi and Snapcaster, I'm good. Now here, my opponent is at 10 life, and I'm thinking, okay, my opponent's tapped out, except for this one land. So what I can do is burn my opponent. There's 8 damage right there. If I can just get 2 more damage. So I'm going to look at my top card real quick, and it is a Bolt. So before my opponent can untap the 2 lands, I decide I'm going to kill my opponent. Wait, was it? Oh, no, sorry, it was a relic. Was it? No, it was a bolt, and then a relic was underneath that. Okay. So bolt, and draw the bolt, and I figure at this point I was going to be able to win. Unfortunately, my opponent did draw a negate here. So I go to bolt, they negate. My only hope now is I have to kill them as quickly as I can. So I pop the Mind Stone, and sure enough, there's a Hazoret on top, and that is just enough to win me the game. So after playing that second game, I realized that I can play as the control deck. It's better if I play as control and don't even worry about Blood Moon, because my opponent using their fetches and their shocks actually helps me to close the game quicker. So this hand, I have a 1-land hand. I decide that is not good enough. And this one I will take, because the relic will keep me in, and I do have a threat, but everything else I'm just going to hold on to. Drawing the second relic is pretty good too, keeping my opponent's graveyard in check. So pop, and I figure, well, I'll go ahead and force my opponent to waste a counter here. Sure enough, they do. In hindsight, I could have played Koth here and been pretty good. Their opponent could have killed Koth, but I decide I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points of damage in my hand. If my opponent keeps using fetches and shocks, that's going to be pretty good. And if they do play a Teferi, I can just I can play Koth and I'm good. But Eternal Scourge is really where it comes in. Because after the Eternal Scourge last game, I realized that I can just write Eternal Scourge and hold Burn in my hand. And if my opponent taps out for trying to answer something on their turn, then I can just unload my hand and win the game. Hey, Junebug. So I'm just trying to play the slow game of Scourge and force my opponent to answer it. I do have to sack the relic there because they decided to do the wear and tear on the relic. I guess they were thinking about saving it for Blood Moon. And I do have another relic, but now I did side out the Blood Moons, and I sided in Legion War Boss to put my opponent under more pressure. Now they don't know that I have a relic in hand, so they go to counter. And I was thinking about bolting my own guy so they don't gain the 3 life, because again, I still have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points of damage in my hand. But instead, I decided to let it resolve, and I'll just play the relic and keep riding the Scourge to victory. And the opponent is not going to be able to keep up, and they end up just conceding. They left the game entirely. So Scourge and Relic are the 2 MVPs of that game. Converting over to play it as more of a control shell and then just lay that one threat over and over and over, eating away their card advantage. And it worked pretty well. That combined with their fetches and shocks.